Hello, everyone. Welcome to Huddle Up, the importance of financial teamwork. My name is Bree Shalito. I'm the Director of Financial Wellbeing here at ENT, and I'm so excited that you joined us today for this webinar. We're going to be talking a lot about teamwork. As the official credit union of the Denver Broncos, we've learned a thing or two about teamwork when it comes to working with them, the way that they operate, and we also know that teamwork is a big part of your finances. So glad you're here, taking that step, kind of figuring out a game plan. We're going to be talking a lot about financial teamwork today and the roles that are on that team. So thank you so much for joining. For our key takeaways, financial success requires a team effort. A team effort is definitely key when it comes to finances. It could be with your team coming to a partner, a family member, a financial coach, but truly surrounding yourself with a great team is where that success is going to come from. You don't have to do it alone. Just like in football, winning takes collaboration. So we want to make sure we're focusing on that for our money as well. Communication is your most valuable play. Miscommunication is one of the biggest causes for financial stress. So, knowing that, making sure that we're communicating, we're going to be talking a lot about communicating. Having those regular money check ins with your teammates can be huge, but we want to make sure we're getting everyone on the same financial page, especially in partnerships. Every team needs a game plan and a coach. We all know the greatest teams out there of any sport or anything has a great coach. So making sure that we have a good financial plan, including short and long-term goals, can also be helpful when we're working with a coach. They can keep us accountable, help us to adjust our strategies, and win with confidence. So these are just a few things we're going to be talking about in our webinar today. Very first question for you all, though, is who is your financial MVP? Want you thinking in terms of who's had the biggest impact on your financial life. Maybe that's a friend, a parent, a partner, a coach that you've had, maybe a teacher. Could even be your past self or yourself here joining us today, taking those first steps to kind of getting that financial information down so that you can succeed. So please take a moment to reflect who's your financial MVP, and then let's talk about those of that should be on the team for your finances. I said before, teamwork matters when it comes to money. Here you'll see these stats that we got from a few sources. The first one being that 87% of adults feel stressed about money at least once a week. That's once per week. That's a large majority of adults are feeling stressed about their finances. Also, when it comes to partnerships, 56% of couples argue about money more than any other topic. So, that being the leading topic that 56% of couples argue about, I want to share that if it's not money, a lot of times it's tone. So, we'll talk a little bit about that later, but those are some stats that really stick out to us when it comes to talking about money and thinking about who's on your team and how to make that work for you. Here's just a few other stats as it relates to financial stress, which is a big part of your finances. In the past year, financial stress and money worries have had a negative impact on relationships at home, physical health, self-esteem, mental health, and sleep. You can see those numbers, many of which ebb around that 50% mark. That's not great. The figure I love on the right is that 74% felt comfortable seeking financial guidance when they were dealing with financial decisions, crises, or life events. Now, we'll talk more about what that guidance looks like and who's that's going to be with later, but understanding you don't have to do it alone. Financial success thrives on communication as well as collaboration. So let's talk a little bit more about the roles on your financial team. You're number one. You're that quarterback. You're the one calling the plays. You get to make a lot of those decisions. But there's a few other folks on that team too. Your partner or your spouse, that's your co-captain. They're your strategic partner. You're making sure that you're aligned with that individual, making sure that you're both moving the ball forward together. Shared decision making can be key there. You've also got your head coach. That could be your financial coach, your financial advisor. Having both of those sometimes makes a lot of sense. They're helping to guide that strategy, provide insight. Sometimes they're also the ones helping you adjust those plays when things go wrong or pointing things out that you may have missed. Sometimes it's like watching your replay. You don't know the things that you're doing unless maybe somebody points it out or you're watching it later. Hindsight is 2020, but we don't always have that luxury. So making sure we have somebody to kind of spot those differences for us can be key. Now, a big one can be your family and friends. Are they your supporting cast, or are they some of the ones that are getting in the way and kind of blocking your budget? Those can really hype you up or sideline you. So making sure you're making the right choices and being clear with them. We'll talk a lot about that here in just a little bit. Can be a really big decision when it comes to your finances. So kind of doing a team audit. Who do you have already? Who is missing? What might need to change on some of these roles for there to be more success? So, talked about the rules. Next is kind of building that financial playbook. Now, this is where you're in charge. Again, you're the quarterback, but bringing those teams in can make a lot of sense here because we're talking about some short and long-term goals. We want to make sure that those are in our sights so that when we're making money and spending that money, we know exactly where a lot of that's going and that it's aligning with our values. So, maybe some of those short-term goals, things like paying off a single credit card, that can be a great goal for some folks. Perhaps it's something like building an emergency fund. That's huge when it comes to finances. Whereas those longer term goals, those are like your deep throws. Those are buying a home, maybe planning for retirement, or even saving for kiddos' future. If you have kids in your life or a family, that can be a big thing when thinking about those longer term goals, but as well as short term. I mean, right now in this season, we're in back to school season. There's a lot of expenses that come with that. So planning ahead can be super helpful when it comes to really setting aside for your game plan and coming up with ideas for your finances. There's a lot of amazing tools and apps. Now, you're welcome to go old school with pen and paper if that works for you. You want to find a method that works for you, but there's a lot of amazing apps that are out there. Ent has one in our online banking. That's our money insight tool, but check with other financial institutions. A lot of those tools can not only help you adjust your budget, but if you don't have a budget yet, you can actually aggregate your accounts into that, and then that tool can set up a budget based on your last 3 months of spending. Sometimes that's an eye opener for folks, taking a look at what that budget is and think, oh, I don't know that I was intending to spend that much on fast food. It's allocated quite a bit of my budget there. So sometimes it's taking a moment to set those up. Sometimes they can be really quick, but then also being honest with yourself as you're reviewing those. So, using those apps, getting into those routines, setting up reminders. Some people like to have full control over their money, and a lot of folks like to automate things. Knowing yourself is crucial in this because you want to make sure that if you want to hold everything and you don't want to set up any automatic transfers, that's perfectly fine. But you want to make sure you're having reminders on your calendars for when things are due. Want to make sure we're keeping up with those payments, make sure we know what's coming in and coming out so that we can really monitor that. That's huge. The last is creating that action plan. Regular check-ins are definitely going to prevent those surprises, but it's also assigning roles, especially those on your financial team. Maybe it's one person might manage the bills, but another might track your savings goals or even schedule those monthly check-ins. Can be somebody that really loves spreadsheets. That person should do that. That shouldn't be assigned to the other person that really doesn't like spreadsheets. So, thinking about your strengths, thinking about what you bring to that team and what your teammate does, and assigning those roles out accordingly can really be helpful. So we're going to talk a lot about that partnership because there's some strategies that are out there that you're welcome to choose from, and each coupling partnership is different. So you have to find what works for you. There's no one size fits all approach here. So what matters most is picking a strategy that works for you. It's okay if you want to try a couple of them to see what works and try some things out because that's how you find success that you both are comfortable with. So the first one that we have here, that one is called the percentage strategy. In that strategy, it can be that 50-50 that you hear a lot, but it can also actually be an agreed upon amount. It could be 70-30, could be 60-40, and different folks base that on different things. We hear a lot that it's based on income. So maybe you take a look at what you're each bringing in each month, take a look and see what percentage that equals out of the total. Maybe that's the percentage that that person pays. Some folks find that fair. Some others might be, especially when we're talking about blended families. I mean, how many family members are each allotted for? There's lots of different factors in this. It's really just what makes you comfortable. Maybe it's about what is being provided to the family or the partnership. There's a lot at play here, so making sure that these strategies align with your values and make sense for you is key. The equal one you'll see there, that's where we're keeping finances separate, but we're contributing to a joint account equally. So kind of similar to that percentage, that one's that 50-50. We have our own money, you have your own money, and then we each put an equal amount into a savings account where our shared bills come out of. The what's mine is yours. We see that a lot more with those long-term, dedicated couples who are combining everything entirely. That can be pretty uncomfortable early on, but that's always up to you and your partnership and what makes sense. So that is combining finances entirely, having joint accounts, having all the money go into one place, all of the bills come out of that same place. So that is one method as well. And then we have the I got you next time. That's great for folks that are just starting out in a partnership, but it also can sustain through many years if you're comfortable with that. In that situation, we take turns paying certain bills. Now, that could be a breakup of each bill monthly. It could also be I'll pay utilities this month, you pay utilities next month. That comes to even things like dining out, activities, entertainment. I'll pick up the check today. I got you this time, you get me next time. Of course, just depending on how that's working out, it just depends on what you're comfortable with, but having the discussion, talking through some of these strategies can be super helpful because then you get an idea of what each person is looking for and what they'd be most comfortable with. Now, with all things finances, you have to understand that how people grew up, how people talked about money, that's really going to sometimes shape the way that they feel about it. So know that we're coming to the table with some different thoughts, different backgrounds. So having these conversations and being candid is key, but I've got some great strategies on how to get there because talking about money can be uncomfortable. So let's talk about some of these tips for couples when it comes to talking about it. I want to focus on the second one first because I probably should have put that at the top. Picking the right time and tone is huge. That is going to help us avoid those awkward conversations. The calm moments lead to much better conversations. So when we're talking about a money talk, we don't want to do it when somebody's distracted. We also don't want to do it during their relaxed time when they're just trying to relax, watch some TV. Scheduling a money huddle can be a great idea. You both know what's coming. You've had time to think about it, had time to maybe think about what you're comfortable with, and then come to the table with some ideas ready to contribute. Picking the right time, and tone. Remember, couples arguments about tone are very high up there. So thinking about that, making sure you're picking the right time and coming at it from a right tone, understanding the other person's inner world can be really key here. Let's go back up to that first one. Focus on we, not me or you. The we. How are you and I against this particular situation? That works for so many things, but it absolutely works with money. So you and I against this problem, you and I's values, framing it as a team challenge, coming together, kind of turning that language from conflict to collaboration. It's not like you spend too much. It's really how can we adjust our budget together? We both agreed that this is a value, want to make sure we're saving towards that. We agreed. So coming up with that we language is definitely huge. Truly just normalizing the money talk. Knowing that it's going to be coming up maybe every month, whether it's scheduled for certain times, can be really great to understand and also just get it on the calendar. It's almost that state of the union of sorts. Handling the business side of the partnership can be a really great way to make sure you're normalizing that and that you're having those productive conversations at the right time with the right tone. Also, just using a shared scoreboard. What that means is that having some sort of savings tracker, spending tracker, putting it in a place that you could both access, whether that's digital or visual, whatever works best for you and is going to be motivating. Some folks go and make those kind of those chains, those paper chains where they can tear certain amounts off when they're making progress towards a goal, a savings goal. You might also do a shared calendar where it shows which bills are coming out and who is responsible for each task. Really lean into some of the strengths you have already as a partnership, some of the tools that you might already use, and make sure that you're visualizing that together. Because on the right there, money shouldn't be a battle. It should be a game plan that you build side by side. So keeping that in mind as we navigate this is huge. This is where we're talking about kind of the friends and family aspect, which can, for some people, really get in the way of their budgets. So, are they your hype squad? Are they your budget busters? Are they your cheerleaders? Because sometimes the way that we interact with money around our friends and family can be really unintentional. And then later we end up regretting some of the decisions that we made. So, people pleasing can also be very expensive. And when it comes to family and friends, some of us kind of lean into that. So, there's a lot of habits that we're going to talk about here where we can just get that covered. So, being upfront in social situations is huge. Making sure that we're coming from a place of understanding, especially when it comes to planning activities or outings. If you're getting ahead of that, maybe suggesting some free or inexpensive outings. If something is suggested that you don't feel comfortable with, just voicing that opinion in the most comfortable way that you can. Just say, ooh, I've actually got some different goals, or that's outside of my budget right now. Do you mind if we try something different? Getting ahead of that, being upfront can be huge. Also, sometimes just deciding not to participate in a certain thing that's maybe outside of your values or goals can be really powerful. And then sometimes you'll see that others will start to do the same. When it comes to group costs, I'm talking activities, parties, events, something where maybe you're picking the tickets up, but people are going to be paying you back. It's really important early on to get those shared costs for people to understand how much each individual owes and really communicate those through group chats, shared documents, or apps. There's ways that you can do that out there. There's also so many new ways that folks can transfer money between each other. There's some amazing apps. Venmo, you can add folks through our Ent app. Those are really easy ways to get folks paid. If they're like, oh, I don't have any cash on me, there's a lot of other ways. So setting those expectations up ahead of time helps to avoid the I got it trap. The I got it trap also sometimes and often happens when we're dining out. Let's say that you and others are out to eat. A great way to get ahead of this and make sure that awkward bill drop doesn't come at the end of the dinner where you feel the obligation to grab it is to set expectations even with the wait staff ahead of time. Just as you've sat, to be like, oh, so it'll be easier on you. Each of us will be on separate checks. Honestly, that's easier for wait staff as well to know ahead of time so that they can already start separating that out, especially if you're going to continue ordering throughout the meal. So setting that up ahead of time, make sure everyone's comfortable because that's awkward when that bill comes. They're like, oh, well, let's just put all four cards down and we'll split it four ways. That can work if we all ordered equal amounts of appetizers, beverages, and entrees. But if you're the one that's trying to be on a budget and really do well and maybe ordered that side salad, that's not a fair split. So getting ahead of it, ensuring that they know, that helps everybody. And then truly transparency equals less stress. Talking about that with friends, it can feel awkward at first, but it's not tacky. It's a gift for you and the future. And truly, as you start communicating that out with other friends and family, they'll feel more comfortable communicating that back. And if they don't, maybe those are your budget busters, not your hype squad or your cheerleaders. So just I'm not saying not to be friends and families with others, but I think it is important just to understand who is going to help you on that. A good supporting team knows the play and helps you stick to your budget. That's really big when we're talking about finances. So, talked a lot about the different roles, but every great team starts with a huddle. So, what will your next move be? Maybe that's getting your team together. Maybe that's having a money conversation. Could also be booking time with one of our financial coaches. Those folks are completely free. We offer that to members and non-members, so making sure that that's accessible to folks. You can schedule those appointments right at ent.com/coaching, and they're here to help with so many things. You'll see budget. That's not just creating a budget, it could also be adjusting a budget. And our financial coaches will work with you as an individual, but you can actually bring your partner in or your family in as well. They've done sessions with shared folks, so it can be a great way to get everybody on the same page. We also can help with credit. That could be building, rebuilding, and keep in mind that credit has a lot of factors and a lot of things. It's not simply whether you're going to get approved for a loan. That could be if you get approved for a job or an apartment. So credit is a great thing to keep an eye on and get some great expert recommendations on how to improve that all the time. Saving, building those emergency funds, but also building those short and long-term funds that you're looking forward to, all those goals and things that you value in life. And then debt repayment. If that's something that you want to focus on, know that you are not alone. There are many others that are also tackling that debt. So our financial coaches can help walk you through those different strategies for debt repayment to either pay it off quickly or save the most money. There's a lot of different strategies that can help you there. So thank you again so much for joining today. Love that you took this first step in finding out your financial journey and also building your financial playbook. I'll pause for just a moment to make sure that there's no questions, but otherwise, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a great day.